And welcome back to Game Escape. Here today to talk about Initial D Extreme Stage for the PlayStation 3. This game was released in 2008 and is part of a long-running series of games based on the anime Initial D. I saw this game, I believe when it was released, shortly after it was released on PlayAsia. And I was really excited about it. It looked very different. It had this kind of unique art style. It seemed somewhat photorealistic, but then you sort of dug in a little bit deeper, and you saw that it was very true to the anime, particularly the cutscenes in the anime, which was pretty awesome. And it was always on my radar. It was sort of always a game on the horizon, one that I wanted to pick up, but just never wanted to spend the money to import. So for Christmas, this past Christmas, I got it as a gift, and I was so excited. I was ready to sit down and finally experience a game that I thought would be kind of a throwback to great Sega racers. It was produced by Sega, so I had sort of Daytona USA in mind, or Sega Rally Championship, things like that, and I was pretty disappointed. This game is one of the few games that I've ever played where the control system makes it almost unplayable. Now, I'll throw in a caveat and say that I don't speak Japanese. I don't read Japanese with any degree of fluency. I know enough Japanese to typically navigate around a game or a website, but in this case I tried all the different options and I could not really find a sweet spot for the controls. The problem is that the slightest touch of the analog stick results in your car just going all over the road. You completely lose control. One of the things that's kind of interesting and fun about the series Initial D is that it's sort of based on, I don't know if you would say call it illegal, but sort of late-night Japanese one-on-one races that typically utilize a lot of drifting. And the main character is, I believe his name is Takumi. He's the son of a sort of a local tofu salesman or proprietor of a tofu establishment in a small Japanese town. But he's a former race car driver, and he gives his son this old 8.6 Trueno, which looks like, as you can see here, a beat-up Toyota Corolla, but it's perfectly tuned to sort of navigate the corners of this little mountainous region of Japan, and he imparts this great driving skill to his son, who's a little kind of ambivalent, a little sort of disconnected from racing and from driving, but he just sort of, as a matter of course for his job as a delivery boy, absorbs all of the knowledge that his father gives him. So if you're seeing a lot of the footage here, and I picked this, what seems to be a crappy, beat-up car, that's because the car just comes off as so cool in the series, and part of the fun is seeing how Takumi uses the car. And again, I believe it's Takumi. I might be wrong on that, but it's fun to see how sort of the main character uses the car and knows how to drift so perfectly that he obliterates his competition, which, you know, is composed of people who have really new, awesome, tricked-out cars. So that's kind of the background of the series. So drifting and precision control, particularly when you're using this car, would seem to be of the utmost importance. And unfortunately, I could not tune the game to be able to control the drifts. I'm not a great racing game player. I will admit that flat out. However, I'm competent enough. I mean, I've played a lot of racing games in my time, and I understand roughly how the drifting mechanics should work. You know, you go into the corner, and typically you sort of initiate it with the brakes, or at least that's how I've done it in other games. Here, it's almost like you don't need to put on the brakes. You can just go full speed into a corner, turn the wheel, and it will sort of drift and brake on its own, and if you hit the brakes, you're going to spin out. It was just nothing that I could control, and I was capturing footage for this review. I was able to win a couple races. There's really no damage, so you can sort of careen against the sides of the road. That's fine. But typically, as you sort of move through the game, when you get to sort of the higher level races, so difficult to win. The drivers are very aggressive. They'll sort of touch you on the bumper and you'll go flying. And I have not found a way to correct this in the options. And like I said, believe me, I've tried for the better part of a year now, and I have not really figured it out. So, maybe consider this a cry for help. I mean, if you can read Japanese, if you're familiar with this game, familiar with this series, leave a comment below and let me know how I can adjust this setting, because like I said, I really want to like this game. So as far as the game modes go, it's a very, very sparse game. You've got the story mode, which is just a series of races against characters from the anime. And you've got a time trial mode where you can try to perfect your technique on a variety of these tracks at night, during the day, with nice weather and rain. And my guess is that if you want to have any degree of success with this game, you have to do that. Beyond that, you have an online mode, and I actually think that the online mode was why this game was so popular initially. I mean, this was an arcade game in Japan, and so you could finally take it home, play with other players, and I want to say that you could actually hook up and race people in the arcades. I might be wrong about that. I can't remember where I read that, but certainly this idea that you could play this very, very popular arcade game at home against other players, these fun one-on-one races, that was kind of the calling card. And that may be fun. I've never been able to do that. But that's it. And the shame of it is that there is a lot that you could potentially like about this game. I think the visuals, like I said, are unique. They're impressive. They really sort of capture the great racing scenes in the anime. They're kind of hard to describe. I mean, they're animated, but there's almost like a CGI element to them. And I think you can kind of see that here. It has a very kind of catchy J-pop soundtrack, if you like that stuff. I'm not a huge fan of that genre, but again, it's taken right out of the anime, and it works for these competitive races. This should be a lot of fun. I mean, like I said, as a kind of fun arcade experience, it has all the trappings, particularly if you throw in the online stuff, but it is just horrendously difficult to control. And I actually imported the PSP version because I read in, I believe it was Retro Gamer, that was kind of the key version for all these games in the series, and they date back to the Saturn. But even on that one, again, this inability to control the drifting I found to be very, very difficult. You can see some of the pause screens will give you tips. Like I said, I want to like this game. I can't recommend it at this point. I can't say to someone who enjoys classic Sega racers or someone who enjoys racing games in general that they should import it, because I can't figure out how to make the game playable and make the game enjoyable. However, if you like the series and you can get it for $20 or $30 and you just want to experiment with it and you know some Japanese, maybe you'll get more out of it than I did. But as I said, big disappointment. Goes on the list of those games that you want to love. I still want to love it, but I just can't do it. So thank you for watching Game Escape, and I will be back shortly with a new video.